So here we are. So good evening, everybody. Here we are on our CREA and EBS webinar. What is next? The future of luxury. Very interesting and challenging topic. I was reading a recent report from Boston Consulting stating that industries of all kinds, and specifically luxury, will go through a three-phase recovery from the pandemic crisis. And they've defined this recovery and this phase by flatten, fight, and future. So I think it's going to be interesting to know and understand in which phase we stand while we talk. But for sure, I think what is extremely interesting is that luxury brands are dealing with a fundamental shift in their business models. I think there is a new path that has been set, and I think that there are rules for a new normal that are really written while we talk. So tonight, with our guest, coming from various luxury industries, I think we will start understanding a little bit more about this new scenario. And I'm sure they will all give us their perspective on what has changed, what needs to be taken into consideration to endorse the change and the shift. And they will also be sharing with us very successful business practices. So let me introduce our guest tonight. And I really would like to thank all of them for their participation. Adrian Roberts. Adrian is the International Director of Education at Accademia Costume and Moda in Rome and Milano, Italy. Adrian, show up so we can see you.
Can you see me?
Yes,
yeah.
There you are.
Buonasera, good evening.
Good evening. Caterina Sand. Caterina is a fashion curator, professor, and editor, focusing on the impact of technology on fashion and the impact on technology on individual and society. Caterina, say hi so we can see you, please.
Nice to see you all. Thanks all for joining us.
Thank you. Asta Ponzo, Senior Communication Advisor in Luxury Goods and founder of The Luxury PR.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Asta. We also have with us tonight Marianne Fisher. Marianne is the director at Paul Fisher Jewelry. And she'll be talking to us tonight about an amazing venture she started right through the pandemic.
Thank you, Donatella. Thanks for having me here. Good evening.
Good evening. And Claire Millward. Claire is a luxury strategist and creative consultant. And she's also the co-founder of Theobroma Secret Cacao. So as you can expect, it's an amazing panel, an amazing selection of professionals and people from the luxury industry. Before we start, I also would like to thank Denise Demir, who has been helping me in the organization of this webinar. And of course, also Alexandre Verlin, who is the director of our master at EBS. So I would like to start with Adrian Roberts. Adrian, you as an International Director of Education at Accademia Costume e Moda, you have been working in the fashion industry for many menswear brands. You have set up also your own knitwear label. And you also are a trustee in the British charity Graduate Fashion Foundation. So you really are in a very privileged observatory to, can you hear me? Oh, there you are.
Yes, perfectly.
I lost track for a second, sorry. And so I think you are really in a privileged observatory because you see all the talents coming to your faculty, to your school. And you also have the privilege to see all the different fashion shows. So tonight, I really would like to ask you to start giving us your overview about, I know you don't like to talk about trends, right? To get your perspective about what is next, what we need to expect for this luxury industry, and also from a consumer perspective, what is changing and what is happening.
Thank you, Donatella. That was great. It feels like we're at a party. I don't know about everybody else, but this feels like quite a party. I'm the imposter because I'm just a consumer. I'm a luxury consumer, a very small luxury consumer. But as you say, when I used to travel a lot, I've worked in around 60 to 70 schools in the whole world. And as you know, we were together in Colombia, Bogota, just over a year ago. And that's where we got to know each other. And it's a wonderful opportunity to travel and hear that diversity of culture and the different perspectives on both fashion and on luxury, because it's not one thing. I spent a lot of time working in India. And my big question in India is, why don't they export luxury fashion? They invented luxury, to my mind, when we were all still painting our faces blue and running around in a rabbit skin. They were in jewels and feathers, and yet they keep it all for their own market and export the lowest quality of garments and fabrics, and not the beautiful luxury things they have for themselves. So I think an opening up of that, respecting other people's diversity of culture and seeing how we can populate the world with different views of what luxury is. So I made a tiny presentation, I mean, really tiny, about when you said it's about luxury. And I thought, well, what does luxury mean to me? And this is where I'm about to share my screen and probably about to find everything goes wrong. But let's try and share the screen and I'll take you through my idea of what perhaps luxury is and what it will mean. I'm almost there. Okay.
You can see perfectly.
You can, that is a miracle.
We can.
Okay. Thank you so much. So, exploring luxury. What is luxury to me? Well, my first idea was it's about time. If you'd asked me just over a year ago, I would say luxury is time, simply because we can't buy it. So the idea of luxury with time. But now where are we? What is time without freedom? When we're living in a world which is restraining us because of pandemic, we've actually learned a great deal during this pandemic. And then it gives us that moment to step back and say, what is time without freedom? What is quality time for us? Then how does that reflect on what luxury do we want in our lives if we don't have the quality time to have that luxury? Time to make quality product. I think that's a traditional concept of luxury. Quality product equals time. So again, time to make the quality product. Time to think. It was Carmel Snow, I think she was the director of Harper's Bazaar in New York. She said that design is a quality thought. It's not just a quality product. So it's the quality of thought to create quality of design. And that is also about time. Time to experiment, time to rethink. Again, I do think we've had the time to readjust and take our moments to redecide what luxury really is for us and what we want it to be. So I approach it from the point of view that luxury and the luxury market, the market made up of people. And for me, luxury has no gender. So obviously, this is my point of view. Why do we classify still things as male and female when nothing actually is born male and female, no fabrics, no gemstone? Why are we just putting them in little boxes? And our society has certainly changed. So luxury for the market, luxury for the people, and people with disabilities. So again, I like to call diverse abilities. I don't know why we've just got this idea of just only looking at what people can't do rather than looking at what people can do. So diverse abilities. we've all got friends with diverse abilities. And if we should just concentrate on how they can react with the world rather than how they cannot, it would be a healthier place. So diverse ability market is 1.2 billion. Has the luxury market ever approached that area? Especially when you think of people like Sinead Burke, what they want to do is to people to engage with them. And how do we use luxury to engage? We wear jewelry, we frame our faces, our heads, traditionally, whether we're jewelers or milliners, and we want people to engage with us. But if you're a smaller person, you don't find that you're included in that luxury market. Fashion is beginning to talk about this, but it's a very long way. However, I think for maybe the luxury market, if you're making jewelry or products, it could be very interesting to think about the difficulties you might have if you're a smaller person, whether it's closing, the lack of mobility of fingers, how you can be independent and approach luxury from an independent manner as a person with diverse ability. So diversity and inclusion. This is a look. A look is gender non-conforming, trans feminine, using the singular they pronouns. I've included a really nice video of him doing the BOF Voices talk from 2019, and it really explains what he's about. His big message is the time has come to completely degender beauty and the fashion industries. And I would also say, including in that, luxury. It's not just about him as a transgender. It's about, or sorry, they as a transgender. It's about all of us. How does luxury approach body hair? Is it positive for a male and negative for female? Everything seems to be connected to how we are putting things in boxes and starting from a very different position of what is binary. So looking at how we can approach the luxury market through the eyes of transgender perhaps can completely rethink about how we create things, whether it's proportion and size, or even if we're opening up a market. Traditionally, people identifying as male wore jewelry. Through colonization, we stopped all that. We took to other countries from Europe a concept that men shouldn't wear jewelry. I go to a lot of countries where traditionally men used to wear jewelry, and I'm the only one, and I'm the white person in the room. So we took this, we exported our concept of gender, and it's made things very difficult. I'd like to introduce you to Mark. Mark's actually American living in Germany. I must say he's got fantastic legs. He recognizes himself as he pronoun, male, married, straight, with grandchildren. But he wears a skirt and heels every day because that's his choice. That is a wonderful luxury, having that choice as well. And there is certainly someone there in the market for luxury. Also the fact that he's a robotic engineer. I just find that so fascinating. And he does look fabulous. So a straight man in heels and skirt shatters gender stereotypes. There's another YouTube interview with him there. And he does this, he has his own system of dressing. He's very happy having a male stereotype above and a female traditional stereotype below. And he likes that different way of dressing and find that suits him and pleases him. What wonderful freedom of time we're hopefully living in. Oh, by the way, I have my shoes here. So
I remember.
I don't get to wear in Rome. No, these are new ones. I didn't have that. I had similar ones, but these are new ones that haven't been out yet. But so I also refer to platform shoes as being age appropriate for me. I saw them first time round. So this is where fashion is going as well. This is a small new Spanish brand called Palomo, from a young designer who graduated from London College of Fashion just a few years ago. And he's identifying a different kind of male or non-male figure. For us, we often talk about in fashion that it's not about trends, it's about brand identity. I can think of a time where trends were important, but that was back in the 1970s. The only part of fashion that really follows trends is fast fashion, and the general garment industry follows behind the designers of real fashion. So fashion, from my mind, is about redefining beauty. How can we think of a new beauty unless we really free ourselves up from a binary system to a non-binary gender system? Inclusion without exclusion. So all people can have the rights of expressing themselves in whatever combination and mode they feel like being in. Redefining beauty, this is one of my favorite brands called Random Identities. They do something really extraordinary. They make clothes in different sizes. So Stefano Pilati, who you probably know worked at Yves Saint Laurent for many, many years, founded this Random Identities in 2017, a ready-to-wear brand. And he makes them for people, and that's it, in different sizes. So is it really, really revolutionary? Fashion brands for people made in different sizes. So we can disrupt the system by just questioning, what are we doing? Who are our customers? And who are we selling to? I said I was going to be very short. I've stopped sharing. That's my provocation. And then maybe we can take some questions on that.
Absolutely. I think there is already a question, but if you don't mind, maybe we can raise the questions afterwards.
Later.
So we keep the flow. But thank you, Adrian, for this breakthrough. I think it's, as always, very eye-opening, you know, when I listen to you and I look at the images that you are able also to show us. It seems so clear what you are telling us. And I love, you know, what you mentioned about this new beauty, inclusion without exclusion. It's so powerful, so strong. And as you say, you know, this new way to bring out the diversity of culture, it's something that it's gonna be super important for luxury industry to take into consideration. And I think that your privilege, as you mentioned, to be traveling around the world, put you in that surrounding.
Absolutely.
And so I think you've really been enriched by all that. And it's showing and proving that, again, we need to have a different mindset to approach the consumer, the overall scenario, and also the way fashion has to be considered, specifically when it comes to the high level of fashion. As you mentioned, you know, fast fashion follows trends, luxury fashion
creates them,
which is super important, super interesting. So thank you, Adrian, for your talk. And I think we have a few questions for you later. So
yep, I'll stay here and I'll hide. Okay.
Don't leave us. So now I'd like to hand over to Katarina. Katarina, as I was mentioning, you are a fashion curator, you are a professor, you are an editor. You are also doing a lot of research in technology, the impact of technology on fashion, on retails. You have also been a correspondent, you know, from New York back in a few years ago. And you've also been the co-curator of Making Fashion Sense exhibition at the HOK. So I think it's going to be interesting for the audience tonight to get your perspective on what has changed, in your opinion, when it comes specifically to the world of retail, and in which way do you believe this new kind of trend, phygital, is coming into place, and in which way it's going to be influencing what is happening at retail perspective?
So first of all, thank you so much, Donatella, for inviting me to be part of this illustrious panel. And thanks for everybody who is attending and who has joined. And thanks for asking these questions. I'm going to also start sharing my screen with you. Let me start here. So essentially, I will approach after this very interesting talk from Adrian, which is really beautiful about these changes in society that are being reflected also in fashion and are really changing also the demands and desires of people who want to participate as luxury consumers. I come up to this question really from a technology perspective. So as you mentioned, I was a journalist, also a retailer and curator or co-curator rather at the HIK on fashion and technology. And I also am actually a PhD candidate in digital fashion communication. So I do a lot of research on the impact of technology. So I'll be talking a lot about the changes and the impact of digital innovation in fashion. And I'd like to start just with this tiny little clip right here. So this is one of the artists I was very honored to show in the Making Fashion Sense exhibition, Robbie Barrett. So this really shows you what happens when you mix, one of the things that can happen when you mix artificial intelligence with fashion and the luxury industry. So he actually fed an algorithm that he wrote images from previous Balenciaga collections. And this collection that you see right here was actually created by an algorithm. Based on the previous collections, it created a new Balenciaga fashion show based on all the images it was fed before. So why is this important? Obviously, that is an artistic installation, but also just to give you an idea how much impact this kind of work can have on the industry is that he was then actually hired by Acne Studios to then design their Acne Studio collection last January. So he actually became a co-designer of an actual fashion collection. So artificial intelligence is becoming really interesting as a collaborator also in design and an amplifier of design, but also as a trend forecaster. So these are all some of the aspects that I'll be going into today. So I wanted to give you a bit of context today about digital acceleration and innovation and share my view of what is the new luxury and also talk about the future of luxury retail. So the little clip you are seeing right here is one of the things I like to experiment with a lot. So this was by a filter by Damara Inglis, which I discovered through the Immersive Kind. And it's one of the ways you can now wear headdresses in fashion as well, which is on Instagram or on other social platforms as well. So when we start with a context, I think one of the things that happened with COVID is we leapt into this digital acceleration. So obviously digital developments have been there. I've been very curious about them and interested. And then bam, it happened just as I was already plunging into my own research. Suddenly all the shows had to be digital. We had digital fashion weeks, digital production and design became very common. So amongst all the fashion schools, suddenly the students had to communicate with each other digitally. They had to compose digitally. They were sharing the products digitally. Manufacturing became largely digital. So the whole logistical supply chain became more digital, also to an extent that reduced actually waste and became more efficient. But it was really pushed by the pandemic actually. And then digital fashion distribution changed because now you can actually consume fashion digitally as well. So here's a very beautiful example of one of the designers I admire very much, Mathilde Rougier, who's a very young designer from 23 years old, Central St. Martin's, has done amazing work really combining digital and analog design with really great values as well. So she actually really wants to go towards a more sustainable way of designing, and she's using digital tools to communicate her work, but also to design her work. Another really important aspect that people don't talk about that much is the shift towards digital payments. So we've been seeing that already, obviously, with mobile payments becoming really common, but now we have this huge shift of what is happening with digital designs. How do you authenticate digital design? So we're getting blockchain becoming incredibly important in digital transactions. So that is also a really important part of the acceleration within the fashion industry. And of course, also as we're consuming all these digital goods, and also as we're consuming in environments that are at least partly digital or phygital, there is a huge amount of data being collected. So data means data analytics. It means a lot of storage in the cloud. It also means analysis of all this data. And I think that's really why I'm also working on my PhD, to be able to actually understand better how all these data analytics are then impacting how we perceive fashion. So I do think the new luxury within this kind of huge flow of digital data and digital information and digital communication that we're all experiencing now, that has been so accelerated, the new luxury is really meaning. So any brand that wants to engage needs to be meaningful. And I think Adrian cited some really wonderful examples of how brands can now be meaningful, and that is being diverse, being inclusive. I do think sustainability is also part of that. So I think that those are key building blocks for a brand to be meaningful. But then how do you communicate the fact that you're meaningful? How do you actually engage with consumers? Now, there's been already the traditional concept of luxury is savoir-faire. And in savoir-faire, you have savoir, you have knowledge. And there's been this a shift towards brands exhibiting in museums, for example, and communicating knowledge through museum spaces, which has been already something that happened before the pandemic, but very, very interesting because it's about communicating knowledge. And another example of brands that are succeeding in communicating knowledge is YouTube makeup tutorials, right? So tutorials, sharing knowledge, really, really important of how can you exchange and engage with your customers. And knowledge sharing, as all of you who are students also know, knowledge is power. Knowledge is status. It's actually incredibly important to have something that you can then be empowered by as a consumer. So I think knowledge is really, really key in the approach. Another one is luxury as play. So I raise your hand if you join Netflix, which I had never joined before during the pandemic. So entertainment, right? So how are you being entertained? And I think people forget, and it's one of the things I had learned as a retailer, that it's not just about buying, it's about playing. It's about engaging. It's the just looking actually really means just looking because you enjoy just looking. You enjoy just trying on. You enjoy just playing with the objects. It's imagining what you would do with this luxury. And you don't always get to the transaction, but it's about how you feel when you play. That's engagement, is being entertaining. So here's an example from Balenciaga that was discussed a lot recently, which is moving into the domain of games. So that's obviously something people could access at home during the pandemic. And I think it's very interesting. Gucci also did this beautiful collaboration, which is also very inclusive and interesting in Adrian's terms, with Galina Strada. I highly encourage everyone to go on Gucci's YouTube and watch this beautiful little animation, which is essentially a computer game. So it's an interactive computer game. And that space of gamification is becoming really interesting as entertainment as well. So luxury as self-care is, I'm not going to expand too much on it because I know Claire is going to talk much more about this idea of care and beauty products. And I think it's the other aspect that became really important during the pandemic is this idea of self-care. I do think play is a form of self-care. So I actually do think that's an important thing to consider. But what I also really wanted to talk about is luxury is social. So when we're talking about computer games, we're talking about interaction. And what are we all craving when we can't travel, when we're stuck at home, is social gathering. And people sometimes forget that retail is about human exchange. It's about this human contact with, it could be the salesperson, it could be the other people in the shop. So how do you create that now? And here's a really beautiful example of one company, Ouroboros, who's doing it who's basically taking luxury, truly luxury, digital couture into dressed, which is a gaming environment. There's obviously other brands that have been, and other kind of gaming environments or virtual environments that are now gaining traction and becoming increasingly popular. And the idea of couture, of digital craftsmanship, is something that's a really interesting new form of luxury. So it was pretty much started by Amber J. Slotin and Carrie from The Fabricant. Hanifa showed it during her fashion show, showing African fashion actually as a digital luxury fashion show as well. But we now see it on all kinds of different levels. And I think it's something that luxury companies can't avoid. And it's a very interesting new aspect that a lot of luxury brands don't yet understand. Here's another example of a young artist I was showing at the Haika Making Fashion Sense exhibition, who also then combines the idea of digital with physical objects. So he would design digital objects, but then transform them into physical objects. So there's this really interesting interplay between those two spaces. And I think that the next frontier here is this immersive experience also in retail spaces. So the next frontier, I think, that is so interesting at the moment, that is the most exciting point right now, I think, for luxury brands, is sound. So here's an example of Louis Vuitton earphones. These are already older, but I think Clubhouse is a good example of a platform that is engaging with sound. It's obviously connected to Alexa and sound search. I think it's very much connected to also the possibility of actually having an emotional experience online. Digitally is very much generated through sound. So in my view, the next step for new luxury is everything that is immersive. And I think sound is a very important part of that. So just to summarize very quickly, where I see the future of luxury retail going is retail as learning spaces. And I think it's very interesting that Louis Vuitton's show yesterday was at the Louvre. So here we see this blending of museum and luxury space as well. So museums as luxury, and luxury positioning itself in museum, in knowledge and learning spaces. Retail as entertainment. So especially in the game industry and in every aspect of the gaming industry, but also in Netflix. I think a brand, a luxury brand that wants to communicate does well having a great series on Netflix. Retail as a feel-good space. And now this obviously relates to what Claire is going to be talking about as far as well-being and self-care, but I also think here we're talking about music. So retail as the club, right? Travis Scott did a great performance in a computer game that people could join and dance to with their avatars. So I think music and dance, incredibly important as a way to move our body in this time as well, but also to communicate with others and to feel good. And then connected to that, to all of the above, is the idea of retail as gathering. I have one last thing that I wanted to mention very quickly in regards to social spaces as well. And that's the last little image I have at the bottom, which is the integration of these digital spaces in retail spaces. So here we have an older example already of Virgil Abloh having, for Louis Vuitton, designed a space that was meme friendly. So essentially it's a green space that people can interact with and layer their images over. So I think any space needs to be immersive and interactive and to include the user. So thank you very much. Let me stop share.
Thank you, Katarina. Oh, you gave us many points of observation, many points of thinking, and for the preparation ahead. I mean, you've been giving us, I think, very interesting also point of references in the approach of what is next. You know, I was very stuck at the right beginning when you were talking about algorithm and artistic, and then you wonder, you know, will these two words combine? And it shows from the examples that you are bringing with us tonight that this can really work, and we are really getting into a new dimension. Artificial intelligence, the digital acceleration, but at the same time, this idea of sharing knowledge, learning spaces, entertainment, the gaming. There are really many topics to consider, to think about, that are really breaking through a new scenario and a new way to look and approach luxury, specifically when it comes to this physical outcome of a store, of a retail. So thank you very much for opening our eyes into these new perspectives. And since we are talking about new perspectives, I'd like now to ask Marianne to join us in the conversation. Marianne Fisher is the 5th generation owner and principal at Paul Fisher Jewelry. And when I met Marianne for the first time, it was at Gem Genève. And I remember walking at your booth and looking at the amazing vintage jewelry and the amazing stones that you were selling at the time. And with Marianne, we had the opportunity also to share a few conversations during the pandemic. And tonight, I really would like Marianne to share with us what she did in terms of evolution of her company and the project that she's working on with some associates.
Thank you so much, Donatella. And I appreciate you having me on the panel this evening. Basically, as you know, we are an old firm, 6 generations now, established in 1850 in Vienna, which makes us very old in a lot of ways. So I'm going to try to use computers. It's all new to us, but I think because we're from an old generation family business, we need to move into the future. So I'm going to start by sharing content. Here we go. And there we go. Okay. Sorry, guys. Is that working? Are you guys on?
Yes.
Sorry.
Works. We can see your screen.
Oh, you can. Let's see.
Yeah, there you go.
Why? There we go. Sorry. Okay. As we're dealing in rare and unique items, it's always been important for us to travel to find them, which, as you know, can't happen right now. For example, when you look at these, let me just do this, sorry. Oh, why isn't that? Sorry. For example, we had to go and fly to London to find these great Georgian ruby diamond earrings. We went to Paris to get this Victorian antique diamond necklace. As you can see, these are all examples of pieces of quality that took time to make. Like Adrian had mentioned before, true luxury is about quality and the time it took to make. And these are all great examples of types of pieces that we seek out to buy. Here's another example. These pair of diamond clips we bought in Hong Kong. this Art Deco aquamarine necklace we had to fly to London to get. So it's very difficult when you're dealing in one-of-a-kind pieces to actually find them. And so with the pandemic, things changed dramatically. Here is a fantastic pair of jar earrings. This is basically, we bought these in Geneva. And this Cartier Panther bangle is a 1991 version made for a Saudi princess, and we bought that in New York. So to find all these items, we would have to go and visit different people, offices, trade shows, and we needed to physically see our suppliers in order to acquire pieces that we're looking for. The antique jewelry world is just a small niche business in relation to the jewelry industry. We are far behind everyone else in terms of technology. Well, that could be a negative. We are also the last of this group that still adhere to the power of integrity and reputation. When we shake on a business deal, it means business. So we actually can just make a handshake without a contract, and I can collect merchandise even on $1 million deal. And our trust and the way we do business is really, it's based on honor. This is the old world, and I would love it to continue as it was. I, like most of my colleagues, don't like change. But then last March, the pandemic hit. We were put in a position that we must change, like it or not. All my associates and my friends in the industry were all locked down at once. Our business activity was completely frozen. I was making a joke with friends. We're no longer jewelry dealers. Now we're jewelry collectors, as all my beautiful pieces were stuck in the safe collecting dust. This prompted several conversations amongst my colleagues worldwide. What will we do if we can't travel? We decided it's time to join the rest of the world and create a jewelry website that facilitates our trade digitally. So we created the digital, we're going to do created, hold on a second, sorry guys, the Jeweler's Circle. My company, along with 5 other firms, De Young in New York, Hancock's in London, G. Taroni in Geneva, Ernst Faber in Munich, Palais Royal in Paris and Hong Kong, began a collaboration to build a website for the trade, by the trade, a B2B marketplace. We began first to make it purely for antique jewelry, and then we realized our niche in the business incorporates everything. We deal in loose stones, pearls, cultured pearls, natural pearls, watches, objects. Why not make it a one-stop shopping for retailers and trade professionals from all over the world? So we built the Jeweler's Circle, a subscription-based platform with no commissions. It's a secure network where the trade can buy and sell merchandise. Only vetted dealers and retailers can participate. The general public has no access. Prices and images of pieces from the circle can't be found on the World Wide Web. So retailers and trade professionals internationally can safely sell to their clients without hearing, hey, I saw that at auction for $2,000, why am I paying $3,000? There's complete discretion, it's a protected network. So after cementing down our business plan in June, we hired an IT specialist named Eric Solian, who single-handedly built the site. We then hired a website designer team called Why Me from New York. And then our project manager, Courtney, managed the communication between them so that we were swiftly up and running at the beginning of October. Then we needed to get the word out there. The first thing we did is hired a firm that's actually here in Geneva. I think you may know them, Amada. And Anthony Levine made this fabulous launch video, which we distributed to the world. I'll quickly play it for you because it's fabulous.
Meet Jack. He's been in the jewelry business most of his life.
Sorry.
He has beautiful
Can you hear
style,
that?
But
Nope.
there's a problem, isn't there, Jack? All these
Can you hear
years, he's
it?
relied upon doing
Yes, yes.
business at trade shows, but it feels like the world has turned upside down overnight, doesn't it? You can't be at all the trade shows, especially in today's world, where it's either difficult or impossible. The good old days of busy trade shows seem to be over. Isn't that right, Jack? Hold on a minute. Don't despair just yet. Look, it's a message from Jade. Jade was Jack's apprentice back in the day. She's a pretty good shot, and she's a bit of a whiz on computers too. Jade has discovered Jeweler's Circle, and she'd like Jack to discover it too. Jeweler's Circle is an online worldwide trading platform created by your fellow dealers. A virtual trade fair, if you like. Only open to dealers, retailers, and trade professionals, it's really simple to use. With different subscription options, you can buy, sell, visit a show, or curate your own show. There's never a commission to pay, like on all the other online platforms and auctions. How do you like the sound of that, Jack? Hey, look out! Wow, Jack, new suit, new everything. Looking good. So you've joined Jeweller's Circle and things are looking up. First sale to a new customer, eh? No more worries about trade shows. Jeweller's Circle is the trade.
Thanks. Here, let me just take that away. Oh, okay. So after creating the video and distributing it, we then approached several trade organizations to help build our credibility in the industry with this new platform. We invited them and asked their members to join us, mutually supporting each other's organizations. We're very fortunate now to have GEM Geneva, the ICA, the NCDIA, the DMIA, SSEF, the IGI, Ferrari, Pickup Media, and Willis Insurance as associates. Then we hired a PR agent from LA named Jen McCullens, who's fabulous, along with a social media specialist named Shane McCoy. It was amazing to see how much traction we received from social media. It's quite surprising. To promote the site, we began hosting webinars. We have one planned for every month. One of our upcoming webinars will be about our friends over at GEM Geneva. We're big fans of that show and have great respect for the caliber of their exhibitors and the high level of excellence they offer at their venue. Webinars like this and other ones with interesting speakers have also helped bring attention to the website. At the moment, the site is free. We know there's a pandemic going on and we realize that people are short of money. We want people to feel comfortable and have success on the platform before we start charging. And it's very easy to use. If you come on, here we go, I'll give you an example. When you enter, the first thing you see is what's just listed. And these are the different categories. So if you are interested in jewelry, watches, objects, you can go into any of these and use the filters to find the pieces. Here is just listed newest offers. Then we have what's called 24-hour best offers. If you have a piece you want to liquidate, and for 24 hours, you just put a very low price, people can bid on it and raise the price. Then we have what's fabulous. It's called incoming calls and posting calls. So if a retailer is looking to find a piece, a special piece for a client, he can post it here, either under jewelry, objects, any of the categories. He can even post it with a picture to match of something else they've seen. And it can send it to either the entire platform or to their circle, which is their select number of people they like to work with. These are the popular pieces. And then this is from my circle, the people that you work with. You have your own inventory to manage, which is like your gallery. We are constantly working on new features. Let me get down to here. So this is the gallery. It's a little slow with the iPad, so I'll go back. We're constantly working on new features for the site that are tailored to fit our trade. For example, right now we're preparing in our beta site a storefront feature. And believe it or not, guys, in our subscribers that we have now, 30% of them do not have their own websites. So these galleries that they'll have on this website, we're giving them the opportunity to use it as their website personally. And they'll be able to have an internet presence without the expense of building their own website. So that's sort of an added bonus to joining the circle. We're also working on curated shows, a feature. This has not been done yet in any of that I know of in any other B2B platform. It's a feature where it allows retailers and trade professionals the ability to borrow goods from the merchandise they see on the site. So they can see the piece, they drag it into their watch list, and they put their own asking price on. And then they offer a link to their private client. It's kind of like a virtual consignment, so to speak. The private client will not know who the dealer is, and no one will know who the private client is. It's full discretion. We have with our search filters also a notification system. So you can save a search, and anytime a piece that matches your search is posted, you get notified. Our next project is building a communication network on the platform, a type of WhatsApp and Facebook feed that works exclusively within our private network. Dealers and retailers will be able to communicate to each other in private or in a group chat. This will help facilitate the feeling of activity as if you were live and actually doing business in person. Our team is constantly working on improving the site. We anticipate by the end of the year to have all these new features in place. We've had very positive feedback from the trade, and we're very excited to be the first B2B platform of its kind. So I hope you guys will have a chance if you want to come check it out. Obviously, it's a secure, you can't get on unless you're vetted, but you're welcome to take a look at the Jeweler Circle from the front page. Anyway, any questions?
Thank you, Marianne.
Sorry. Here, let me stop sharing. There we go.
There you are. Put your camera on if you can, so we can.
Yeah, I'm trying. Oh, there we go. Hi. Sorry. You know what's the funny part of this all is we developed this computer program website, and I am completely inept with computers and technology. So if I can use it, anybody can use it.
Absolutely, and it's super interesting. I mean, Marianne, to share what you've been doing. I mean, this is really a very interesting best practice of, you know, how to kind of switch the situation. I mean, as you mentioned at the right beginning of your speech, you know, in your industry, in your business, you used to deal and make businesses by shaking hands.
Yes.
So I can imagine that, you know, the pandemic really destroyed, you know, this kind of relationship. And then I think it was extremely talented from your side and your associates to come up with this idea and this platform, which also looks to be pretty easy to deal with.
If I can use it, anyone can use it. It's user-friendly.
And also, I have to say, I loved also the video that you showed us.
Isn't it fabulous? It's
fabulous. It's very, you know, straight to the point and very nice in the way you are illustrating, you know, the whole concept. So great experience to share with our audience tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for having me.
Stay, because I see there are questions popping up. So stay with us.
I'm staying with you.
Thank you. And now Asta, Senior Communication Advisor in Luxury Goods, founder of the Luxury PR. I was reading your bio, Asta, and you've also been working in the jewelry industry for the Grisogono, and then you've been working also for Vacheron Constantin until you decided to leave the corporate world and set up your own PR and communication office. So Asta is been supporting also the Grand Prix d'Horlogerie in Geneva. She's been working with different brands and companies internationally and in Geneva. So I really would like Asta to share with us her view about this luxury world, once again, you know, from your privilege perspective, and share with us some of the best practices of your customers during the pandemic.
Sure. Thank you very much for having me, Donatella, and thank you to the other panelists. I'm very humbled to be selected amongst those very professional people. And yes, I will try to be concise. Maybe you would have expected me somewhere being like a very rigid and structured person, but I am, believe me, I am. But for tonight, I just preferred another approach, because normally what happens is that I go always on the way you do not expect me. So tonight is like this, that was my mood. And I hope I will transmit you something interesting. So maybe the idea was, I will speak about a very simple idea, basically. Creativity. Let's speak about creativity, because, for example, for all those young people who are listening to us this evening, when you finish, maybe you complete education or whatever you choose for your future, you may then need to find your own self. And finding your own self is maybe putting ahead your creativity, because creativity is your USP. Whatever you do in life, you need creativity to be different. And since the dawn of time, relationship has been maybe mankind's most successful achievement. And we've been, to my opinion, we've been trained for future, to prepare for future in a totally wrong way. So like machine-like, we are expected to be highly performant, more efficient, use our brain to perform, but what lasts at the end are concepts that are filled with humanity. And to me, that's a very important thing. You will understand later on where I will come up to with all these concepts, because our creativity as professional is heard only if it's filled with humanity. And if we succeed in combining those two concepts, it's our way to success. Wherever we go, either we use technology, digital, whatever you want, but you need humanity and creativity. All these two together will lead to our success. So our main concern shouldn't be how will we technically overcome this crisis. Proof is done, we made it. We made it somehow, but we made it. Later or sooner, but we made it. So the point is now, our main concern should be how will we preserve creativity and avoid dehumanization? That's my main concern for tonight. So we won't stop creating because we are facing challenging times, but we need to make sure that our capacity to remain human and in relation is safe. Flattening the curve so that letting too much technology or digital taking an important part in our daily business, in our daily lives, would do so that we will lose in variety. And what so? We take the risk of all disappearing because we will be all the same. So again, variety, humanity will make so that even in challenging times where digital is very important, we look at the example of Marianne. She succeeded in her venture, and I'm very happy for you, Marianne. But what happened exactly is that your network answered positively, but you prepared your network since ages now, since generations now. Without that network, without relationships with subcontractors, with great professionals, we weren't here, neither you nor me. So I'm totally convinced that this is very important. And jumping too quickly into digital, and I'm sure all the participants tonight, all the panelists will agree with me, jumping too quickly into digital could lead us on a very short term to a global uniformization of our ideas, of our services, or our proposals. So maybe we could, to an extreme extent, become total slaves of the technology for the major part of us, which would be a pity. So maybe now you want me to explain how some of my clients have pivoted with my advice, keeping on the human side. And yes, for example, I can speak of Barrett Wines, which is an auction house, a newly created auction house. It has been created in 2015. They are my clients since a year and a half now. I do have other clients in the auction world with Philips Auctioneers, which are specialists in contemporary art, but they also do have a watch department in Geneva. And I help them to combine traditional PR with the digital necessity, but still remaining human. And I will explain you how this was a crucial point for them, either for Philips or for Barrett, to remain connected with the community. Because yes, it's true, we all faced that pandemic and weren't prepared, of course. But since ages, we prepared our relations to be strong. And as much as you stick to this, I'm totally convinced that you somehow can deal with whatever happened in life. It's just like you behave in family. In family, you feel secure because you are surrounded with people that do understand you, with whom you have great contact. You can react to the problems. Okay, I have a problem at home. My sister will help me. My husband will help me. It's exactly the same. At least what I advise to my clients is exactly the same in the professional world. So you need to stay connected to your group of influence, to your customers, to whomever is important for you, but with a very sincere approach. So, for example, for those auction houses who, for some, neglected the human aspect of having a good relation with their customer, then when they call the attention of their customers online, some were very disappointed about the reaction, because if you do not have any relation built, how then would you ask for a favor? Instead, when you have a very strong relation with your customers, and then you just, all of us face the same situation, and you ask your clients to be on your side and to say, okay, look guys, this year, we won't have any live auction, so there won't be any gathering, there won't be any, you know, how would I say, excitement inside the sales room, which is also a very important element in the auction world, is that excitement that leads, for example, also to irrationality. And this is very important in, in this field. We do not have that. So my clients just required from their clients, customer, followers, aficionados, whomever, to be on their side. And they did. So that, for example, for Philips, year 2020 was the best year ever since the creation of the department in Geneva. And the department in Geneva was created in 2014. So since 2014, all the watch specialists built their relation with the customers, making so that they are available on Instagram, through email, WhatsApp, whatever. Some prefer telephone, some prefer Skype, whatever, but you know, the relation, again, humanity, creativity, and the relation. And then happened the time, the tough time, where we faced that challenging moment. And all of a sudden, when a watch specialist, for example, took a telephone and said, okay, now we need you to understand that there won't be any gathering. And if you want to stay close to us, if you want the passion to be transmitted and continue, you want to spend money, you need to spend money, you know, in an environment that is exciting, comfortable, reassuring, secure, safe. So rely on us and be confident. And saying someone be confident, if you do have only a digital relation, it's totally impossible. Especially for workers of art, for example, we sold a watch online with Philips, my client, at the very last auction in November. That was the online sale, the highest online sale ever for Philips in terms of watches. It was a watch for 3 million and something, 3 million of Swiss francs. So just imagine what happened when a person has a strong relation, that strong that they are confident in the system, they are confident in the partner, and they do bid online and buy an item for 3+ million. It's really the achievement, but it's not the achievement of digital. Digital is only a support. And thankfully, it was existing. But at the very end, relations made that possible. That's it.
Thank you.
That's it, guys.
Well, thank you, Asta. That's an interesting perspective that you are really sharing with us. And, you know, I support and totally agree with you when you mentioned the word creativity, humanity, and relation. You know, at the end of the day, as you say, you know, we could survive through because we all had our relation, our network, our universe around us that was living, you know, the same situation. And, you know, we all got it, you know, reinforced by that. So it's very interesting also, you know, that you mention all those important pillars that we have to remember. And because otherwise the risk is really the global uniformization that you were mentioning, which could also be, you know, a little bit of a danger the way we go ahead. But super interesting also to hear about your clients, about the experience with auctions, and you know, the fact that Philips had the best year in 2020 through the watch department. So these are, again, very interesting best practices to, you know, to understand in which way luxury is evolving and what are the strong elements that needs to be taken into consideration. So thank you, Asta. And now, thank you. It's Claire's turn. So here you are, Claire's Millward. You left New Zealand when you were 21, right?
Right.
Hi, and you came to Europe and you started working in the cosmetic and fragrance industries.
Exactly.
And then you moved to Switzerland, right? When you started working for a training department of Bulgari Parfum. And then you also moved to Chopard Geneva. So you've been working also in the luxury industry, and you are still working as a luxury strategy and creative consultant.
Mm-hmm.
But you also went through this very interesting adventure with some associates, and you launched a couple of years ago, Theobroma Secret Cacao.
Yeah, it's a very recent arrival, and it's the fruit of a group of people, actually. There's 6 of us, and we're all coming from the luxury industry, whether it be cosmetics, perfume, jewelry, watches, so all with codes, or let's say a DNA of luxury, as I would like to say it used to be. Because indeed we are and did all work for houses that have been existing for decades. And what I would say now is regards to the future of luxury is that there are values of luxury that are eternal, and others that thankfully are evolving and have to evolve. And that will be indeed the new future of luxury. But if we think, I'm going to use the context of Theobroma Secret Cacao, but I will also talk a little bit about the luxury industry in general, and from the perspective of a consumer, as well as a creator of a brand or an offer or a product of luxury as well. So if we think of luxury in general, it's quite interesting, because what does really luxury mean? First of all, it also evokes a lot of things for a lot of people, and we can talk about an object as much as an experience, or something tactile. But in general, luxury is something that ignites the senses. It's tactile, it's visual, it's emotional. And there's also this association which is linked to society, oneself, or a social aspect, which of course often leads us to think that luxury items are associated to social status. But we'll see that that's probably going to evolve. From a luxury brand perspective, it was often we lead and you follow. So we're going to tell you what it's like. We're going to offer things to you. And as a client, you can follow on in a way, because there was always the mystery of luxury. There's an aura around luxury, and then there was a high belief in luxury brands. Now, if you think of skincare, a lot of that came crumbling down recently due to the fact that people became aware that there are ingredients that are not beneficial to them, not so luxurious actually, after all. There are big machines in the luxury industry that don't have the agility to be able to turn and to move. And
on top of that, education comes in, because consumers have now the ability to become more and more aware and study themselves. And there was potentially a little bit of mistrust that was placed there as a consumer facing brands. So there's a little bit of mistrust that is transitioning thanks to the future and the new ways that we're dealing with luxury. So if we think of that future, it's the future of a changed values. And what are those changed values? Well, some of them have changed. Some of them remain the same, but that posture of we lead, you follow has transitioned to I'll inform myself, I'll educate myself as a consumer, then you provide me with something that's exciting, that's interesting, that's igniting my senses, and then I'll decide to go with you. And that mentality, as I said, is a transitional one, because eventually the consumer will be bonded with the brand, which is sincere, which is open, which is joining them in an educational way. And of course, we would have moved into what becomes the new luxury. So the new future of luxury retains these values of quality. We were talking about quality earlier on, as far as we're concerned in the industry that I'm in with Theoroma. It's the quality of ingredients, it's the quality of the communication, the quality of the environment, the quality of the way we make things, and the quality of the way we exchange as well with our clients, because we have the ability to exchange with them because of the size of the company. The time is always and always has been a factor in the industry as far as craftsmanship goes, as far as rapport goes between clients and long-lasting clients or clients that exist for a long time, as well as the time it takes to create a relationship with a client. That's always of great importance. In the skincare industry, it's the time it takes to be able to create something that is exciting, and in skincare that's efficient as well. And there's also that wonderful word that we like, which is preciousness, which is also associated to the luxury industry. So there will be some of the values of the existing luxury industry that will carry on into the future. However, now we're a lot more interested in authenticity, in knowledge, in the truth, knowing the truth, the luxury of the truth, things that are somewhat simple compared to what we've experienced up until now. And then, as I said again, that education from the brand perspective, but also the client who's educating themselves and becoming more and more aware. Now, in luxury, we also often talk about creativity, aura, excitement, as I said, and a lot of energy. And now we can also imagine that the future is a combination of digital experiences, of technology, but with a human factor. So at the moment, we might feel like it's going too much digital. Where's the human in it? Well, in fact, the future will be a combination of the two, whether it's at the point of sale, in a physical point of sale, or on a digital access to a product as well. So I'm just going to share something with you from our perspective. Let me see my emails.
Yeah, we can see your presentation. You can just put it on presentation.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So you got that?
Yeah.
Okay. So Theobroma is a skincare which is based on the values that I've been talking about, the luxury values that I've been sharing with you. So I'm just wondering, have you got the full screen of Theobroma Secret Cacao, or have you got my my screen which shows you what's to follow?
We have the full screen, so
okay.
I think it's good. You are on.
Okay, so we have the luxury, as I was saying, of a fully natural skincare collection, which is derived fully from nature. So there is no synthetics, there's nothing that's fake or false or artificial. And we have as our key player, as our star, rather than being a model or a mannequin or an actress, it is the actual product itself. So we have the cacao, which is the star of our line, which is the natural star as well. The future luxury skincare clients' desires are that of a smart, safe, simple, new and exciting eco-consumption, which brings, of course, pleasure and beauty. But as we were saying, now naturalness accompanies efficiency. We want a little bit of kindness to oneself, some time for oneself as well. These products are simple and easy to use and understand by researching for oneself, but also the information that we provide as a company is futuristic insofar as it's authentic, sincere, and it's straight, if you like. Once again, we're talking about the luxury of time of caring for oneself, and this has taken a more important place rather than one of anti-aging or, you know, the fear factor. It's more about looking after oneself rather than buying into things that are not timeless values. Of course, we are also sustainable. It's something that's part of the future and it's happening now. The funny thing is that you hear a lot about this, but we don't actually see a lot of it manifesting. And then, of course, there's a lot of greenwashing because big companies that have put these products in place over decades have a lack of agility. So it's very difficult to turn around rapidly after spending years and years proclaiming certain things and then all of a sudden become green and clean. So we have this agility to be able to take the next step into the future as far as this goes. Being honest, open, having information, communication, working closely with partners as well. We have this ability because also of our size, but also because of the desire that everyone we have and everyone we're working with, that they have to go towards this direction. Now, I was talking about how does it fit technology and luxury and the luxury of naturalness? Well, one place is with Yuka. Yuka is an application you can download, and it's a way of, as I was saying, that a client becomes educated themselves rather than being educated by the brand. And Yuka is an app which allows you to see how natural a product is and how many ingredients are natural within the cosmetics product. Originally, it started out as something for food consumption. So you'd put the Yuka app to see how many allergens might be in a product. But now we have Yuka for the skincare as well. And we have the chance to be 100 out of 100 with Yuka with Theobroma Secret Cacao. The other thing I was telling you about is authenticity and relativity. We have storytelling and an aura, which is, as I was saying, is important in luxury as well. Although this one is authentic, it's sincere, it's honest. We have derived our inspiration from the Mayan gods, the story of the Mayans, and the fact that it was the Mayans that brought us this precious, beautiful cacao, which in the time, in their era, was used as an energizing drink, as skin protection, in fact, and also as a currency unit. They used to call it the treasure of the gods. And we, of course, have taken the name Theobroma from the tree, the botanical name for Theobroma, which is also known as the food of the gods, in fact, in Greek. but it's actually the name of the cacao tree. So there's no mystery there. It's the luxury of nature once again. But I was saying to you earlier on, it's interesting to be able to dream and to go to another place, to evade, to go somewhere else. So we were inspired as well to create names that were inspired by this Mayan heritage. Our star, of course, is the wonderful natural cacao and all of its exceptional properties. Again, in this act of authenticity, we bring in, and we can, the cacao pod. There it is. It's beautiful on its own. And we also have an organic cacao, and we know where it comes from and how. So this again comes into play as far as authenticity, sincerity, and transparency, if you like, goes. And on top of that, this luxury ingredient, which we've known up until now to be very, very much associated with gourmandise, with things that we eat, it actually has an efficiency. It has a capacity of caring for skin because it has a lot of polyphenols. So that again is more information that we can share with our clients in a transparent and joyful, natural way. So the other thing that we are able to communicate as far as this luxury of the future goes, but not in a niche way, we're in a way that can be expanded and reach a higher amount of consumers, rather than being in a, you know, kind of back of the kitchen whipping up a few things aspect, is that we have brought in quite a few natural ingredients of which we also know the origins, and often most of them are eco-cert. So the future of the luxury for the people who use our line, we don't discriminate at all. So it's basically universal. It's for all generations, all types of consumers. It's the people who want to have the time and take the time to care for themselves, to care for their skin, for their health, for the time they have to look after themselves, taking the luxury of that time. And of course, who have a level of conscience around their acts and the impact that they have, of course, on the environment. We, of course, are transitioning to what is available and what could be the future, where all beauty brands could be clean beauty, eco-responsible and safe. We're committing to that because we're vegan. Of course, we contribute to 1% for the planet, eco-responsible. And in the end, the future of luxury, it just should be the norm. This is the way that all of our competitors and players should be. Here is Olivier Dumet. This is an example of a collaboration of going to the source. So he's in Guyane Française, and he advises us, he grows, he tells us how, you know, how and everything about cacao. So we actually get to talk to someone who's actually growing it and get informed from the source as well. And I was going to show you a movie, but it's quite long and it's in French. So in the end, the luxury of all of these natural ingredients bring together a clean beauty, which is the future of luxury as far as skincare goes, with all of these wonderful natural ingredients. So to give you an idea of the industry, we have selective brands, we have pharmaceutical brands, and then we have the new clean beauty brands. So selective brands are made up of those that you're probably most familiar with, these big machines that have a lot of chemical formulas or were originally fashion brands. Then we have the pharmaceutical brands, which also, again, have to convert, have to change, but weren't perhaps so luxurious. And now we're in with the players of the clean beauty brands. So there's a whole area to go in that direction. And the other thing is that there's a few of the clean beauty brands that have actually been bought by some of those bigger houses there in the selective brands, purely to be able to transition into this new luxury skincare arena. We have, as I was saying, very simple range of products. This is another thing that we realized was a luxury, is to not be confused. It's to have access to something that's pleasant to use and easy to use, as part of being decomplexing the aspect of luxury. This aspect of luxury. And the other thing is, as I was saying, is education. So it's for brands to be able to now educate the clients educate themselves, and eventually that'll come together, and that trust will be back on the client side towards the brand once that relationship has been created as well. This is interesting for us because the future of luxury is indeed natural, 100% natural. And we were voted as Beauté Star Espoir alongside these brands such as Clarins, for example, that have existed for a long, long time. So we really believe that the future of luxury and skincare is natural. And soon, of course, we'll be interpreting other aspects of the cacao bean with mint, with the ruby cacao, with orange and Criollo, which is a very special cacao bean because it comes, there's only 10% of the growth of cacao that you have is Criollo. So there we go.
Thank you. Thank you, Claire. What a very interesting best practice that you were able to share with us tonight. And also very interesting, you know, when you were mentioning what luxury means, that you also added some other interesting point of reference for our panel tonight. Also, you know, you were talking about the responsible consumption, the education, you know, also very interesting, you know, when you mentioned about the greenwashing, about sustainability, and how much, you know, you are into that, doing it in an authentic way. So,
and it's not easy, you know, to do it in an authentic way at the moment. That's why I'm using the word transition, because everything is not available to a brand that wants to be completely, you know, where we really want to be. So it's a real transition. And an exciting one as well. Yeah,
I can imagine. And then you're really developing the steps in a proper way, in a very efficient way, as you say. And also, I think the prize that you won, it's extremely interesting and really shows, you know, the development and the evolution is going on the right track. So thank you really to all my panelists. I think you all brought many interesting point of references tonight, you know, in the approach of luxury. I know that, you know, we are a little bit late, but I still see a few people who would like to ask a few questions. So if you can stay a little bit longer, I would like just to open up a little bit of a panel discussion to our audience who has been with us till now. So, well, I have already a congratulation. And then two people raised their hands. So if you would like to speak up and ask your questions, you are more than welcome to do so. I have, yeah, two people raising their hands. Hoda Bitar or Nicola.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. It's Hoda Bitar from Lebanon. I'm really excited to join you today. It's really a valuable session. And I'm extremely excited to know if it's a social social cause. How can we create our first auction? What's the tiny steps to nail it? Thank you.
So it would be a question for Asta, maybe for the auction. Did I get your question right? Because the
yeah, that's true. That's true. I think Asta may support us by that.
Hello, Hoda. I would love to develop
Hello,
that.
Asta.
No, it's the opposite of rocket science. It's like pretty much depending on the product you want to put at auction. But you have very successful people that started the business very simply in, you know, having those exchanges and commercial transactions before starting to getting concretely into auctions. So I think, as always, you know, network is key. Then when you feel you have enough network and enough property with, it's really important, provenance, authenticity, and traceability, it's really important. When you have quality property, no matter what, and you have a proper network, then you can start, I think, of thinking of a business model that will some kind of being similar to the auction. But now I can't give you all the details, and what I can do instead, you can connect me on LinkedIn or whatever, and I will very gladly explain you some, I would say, basic steps with much pleasure.
Thank you, Lutz. It would be also my pleasure connecting to you. Thank you.
Very gladly. Thank you, Hoda.
Thank you. And I think we also have Nicola Fellman, who was raising hand.
Yes, thank you so much. What an interesting discussion. Claire, I think you brought up the great dichotomy that we are going to be experiencing, where luxury is now natural, the most natural we can go, and yet we are now experiencing something quite unnatural, being in the digital. Mm-hmm. And so this is where I found Asta's interesting. What must we bring in to be able to bring in humanity? Claire and Marianne, you were mainly talking about a product, but Catherine started to really broach very well the personas we're going to be. And Catherine, you mentioned how the experience of sound is now being brought into digital to be able to touch on our human experience. I believe Givardon, the perfume company in Geneva, is now actually also working with a startup to eventually bring smell into it. And this is where, Marianne, you, in your business, you used to go to all these events, and there were people who, that was their job, to actually create events around your products and everything. So we're definitely at the dark ages in our Zoom experiences. And so what would be the elements that the actual event used to have that we could now try and bring into an experience online? So just the last thing, Catherine, I think what you brought up, we're going into a digital identity. So we're actually going to be having an expansion of our egos as we have now digital egos. And my question is actually to Adrian, with all of that being said, you speak about the disruption that's coming, that is being brought in. Linked to luxury is also the element of mauvais goût. What is digital mauvais goût going to look like? I suppose we have no idea, but there's going to be an element of that snobism, also the snobbery in.
Oh yeah. Adrian, are you going to talk?
I'm listening, but there is the snobbery of the intellectual as well. The snobbery of being superior and having a superior or diverse point of view is also can be a snobbery. The snobbery of education, the snobbery that we can be, we have the answer to many things. As I'm talking about diversity, that in itself is a kind of snobbery. To say that, look, I think I have a different view on this, that's a snobbery in itself. So I think we can live with snobbery. If we're going to live with luxury, we can live with snobbery.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Cheers.
I agree.
Right. No, thank you. Thank you. And maybe time for one last question. People are congratulating in the chat about the panel, about all your different point of views. I think there is an interesting statement saying that yeah, it's like the world of luxury is changing. So everybody seems to be very much curious in knowing and understanding, you know, what is next. I also have again 2 more. Yes, time for one more question, my dear panel, from Eridani maybe. Eridani, you want to raise your question?
Yes, so thank you so much. I really loved what Adrian was talking about in terms of sort of disrupting the industry with inclusivity. So one of my questions is, how does an industry that is inherently exclusive adapt to something like being more diverse and inclusive? I think that's where I'm trying to understand sort of like what the balance is there. And also to bring in a little point with, you know, what Katharina was mentioning, does sort of like the digital revolution that we're seeing in this industry also bring about more inclusivity? So how does that all kind of affect the exclusivity of luxury?
Thank you. That's a really interesting question. But don't forget, inclusivity in basic terms also means women. There's still a long way to go for women to be included in everything. But I think, and then we've got skin tone, ethnicity. Inclusivity is for everybody. And until we see that, we've got a long way to go. But we are seeing that everybody is, I don't want to say they're jumping on the bandwagon, but they're all getting involved in that conversation. In my small part here, I'm doing it within my school, but some big brands have also contacted me saying, we're looking for a student of this ethnicity, and we cannot actually say, oh, this one. But globally, we're looking at how we can get that inclusion into the workplace, into the sphere of the conversation. So, but I think it's tiny steps, but we're still working on getting inclusivity for half the population of the whole planet, which happens to be female. And the population of the planet is actually not white. Most of the population is brown or a different shade. And we're still seeing this, the white world dominating. And I think inclusivity has to be a fair balance. So it's a big conversation. I'm being provocative and talking about gender, but I think gender in itself will actually be more inclusive for women in all forms. I think that conversation will open up and will be a safer place for all women too.
Thank you. Thank you, Adrian. I think time has come now to thank all the panelists, thank the audience. I think tonight we really shared many interesting point of views, many interesting vision about the future of luxury. And I'm sure that our audience was very inspired by all your contribution, all your speeches. And I also myself learned a lot from all your, nice talks, experiences, and so on. So really thank you from my heart to all my guests tonight.
Thank you.
It's been amazing to listen to you and to listen to all your experiences. You are all amazing professionals and amazing players in the luxury industry.